I have a crap ton of lenses.
Like really, this is too much.
But each of these has a different use, and while they're all amazing, none of them do what I need a lens to do right now. I have a problem. So why did I buy the Canon f2.8 Pancake? It's small, it's light, it's cheap, and I'm going to Italy. When it comes to travel, I really try to pack as light as possible, so I'm just bringing the necessities. And since this trip is 10 days long, I'm gonna have to cut down on camera gear a lot, unless I, want to sacrifice like some clothes and stuff, and honestly, I don't want to go commando. After much lamentation over my dilemma, I finally realized that the RF 2.8 24mm is going to be the only lens that I need for this trip. It's gonna be perfect. Its small size is gonna make it super easy to pack, and it's super lightweight, so it'll be easy and really comfortable to wear around my neck all day. That said, the fixed focal length is really going to limit me, and I am committing to bringing this lens, and only this lens, overseas for the entire vacation, which is a little nerve-wracking. It could turn out really bad, but the only way to find out is to give it a shot. I have given it shots. Lots of shots. After spending 10 days with this lens, I kind of have a good feel for its quirks and the strong suits of it. Plus, I've got a lot of good sort of example photos to go over. So let's talk about it. That was the wrong direction. 28mm is sort of an interesting focal length to be stuck at, because for landscape and architecture photography, it's sort of on the tighter end, but it still works. And for portraits, it's sort of on the wider end, but it still works. I was worried that living in this no man's land of focal length would sort of mean that it was good for nothing, but that wasn't the case. When I was in Rome shooting all of these magnificent buildings and churches, I rarely felt the need to go wider, and it always felt like plenty of coverage for landscape shots. 28mm is also still technically wide enough for selfies, but like barely, just barely, and that's me holding it all the way out. I've got pretty long arms, so it's borderline. That said, it doesn't distort as much as a wider lens would, which makes it a lot better for things like setup photos or posing photos. Overall, I felt that it was just a really good balance, and the only time that I wished for something wider than this, like a 16mm or a 14mm, was when I was taking those selfies. A quick note on the aperture of this lens. In my experience, and for most travel photography, 2.8 is plenty when it comes to stopping a lens like this down. 2.8 will give you that nice extra stop or so of light when it comes to dark interior scenes, but for the most part, I never actually shot with this lens wide open, because having a higher f number will give you a wider plane of focus, which is better for architecture and landscape photography. Plus, when you have a camera like the R6, which performs remarkably well in low light, and you combine that with our insanely good AI denoise algorithms with Lightroom, there's really not much of a reason why you can't just crank the ISO on your cameras nowadays, at least within like a reasonable degree. So usually I was playing around with this lens around f4 to f11, sometimes a little bit lower, sometimes a little bit higher. In hindsight, I probably would have used f2.8 more often than like jumping to ISO 40,000, but I was so terrified of getting blurry images and out of focus images that I opted for the higher ISO number and the higher noise, and in general I was pretty happy with my results. While the images that this lens gets are pretty dang good, the best thing about it is definitely its absolutely tiny footprint. Combined with my Canon R6, this is an absolutely miniature travel package that's super discreet, relatively small, and most importantly, lightweight enough to carry around my neck all day. Balancing photography and videography with being in the moment enough to truly enjoy the places that you're at has always sort of been a challenge for me. In the past, I would get so wrapped up in choosing which lens would get me the best photo, and should I swap them out, and just carrying around all of this equipment, that I would just get kind of distracted and never fully appreciate the incredible places that I was. Having not only just one lens to choose from, but a fixed focal length lens really removed all of that noise from my mind and allowed me to simply focus on getting the best photo that I could at that moment where I was with what I had around my neck. It's strange, but in a way, having that restriction also gave me more freedom. While this setup may not be as small as a compact camera from Fuji or Leica, it still benefits from all of the tech of the R6, including its autofocus and image stabilization, which I'll talk about in a minute. But if you're wanting to get great footage from your travels and maybe even start a travel vlog or a YouTube channel, there's no better website to check out than today's video sponsor, Motion Array. Motion Array is a massive online library of every asset you could possibly need to create anything from travel vlogs to professional client videos. The site has thousands of templates, graphics, and presets, all of which make editing a breeze, especially for somebody like me who has no idea how to do graphic design or animation. Some of the most powerful tools that they have are their new plugins, which bring professional quality video effects directly into your video editing software. By just dragging and dropping, you can add film emulation, lens flares, heat waves, and more to your footage to give it that extra bump of style. These plugins work with all of the major video editing softwares like DaVinci Resolve, Premiere Pro, After Effects, and Final Cut. So no matter which one you use, Motion Array is a tool for you. From there, you can finish up editing your video by using assets from their restriction-free library of music and sound effects. The best part is you can get started totally for free using the link that I have down in my description below. Thank you, Motion Array, for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to talking about that super sick pancake lens. Like all of Canon's RF lenses, the autofocus on the f2.8 28mm is just incredible. It worked flawlessly with the R6's subject detection and was super snappy. I never had it randomly lose focus at all, which was an issue that I had with some third-party lenses. The focus motors track really well in video mode too. Even in this shot where there were a lot of people around, it kept on my selected subject really well. The biggest downside when it comes to video with this lens though is that it has no lens stabilization, which isn't super surprising. It's kind of obvious when you take a look at this little tiny lens. How could you possibly fit some sort of balancing or stabilization motors in there? I think it's kind of just a fair trade-off. You've got a small, super lightweight package, but you lose some of the benefits of image stabilization in the lens. So for video, you just have to be super smooth with your handheld shots. I mean, I'd say bring a gimbal, but that kind of defeats the entire purpose of the whole pack light thing. After all the positive things that I've had to say about this lens, there's one little weird quirk that actually really affects the sharpness of the images that you get out of it. You see how tiny this little front element is? If you're not super careful about putting the lens cap back on the lens after you shoot with it, it becomes super easy to just smudge the entire lens, because like I can fit my whole finger just like right over the entire front lens element, and that's what happened a lot. Smudging this glass results in streaks and haze, which really affect the sharpness of your photos. And in some cases, like it actually kind of looked cool. It looked like a mist filter or a streak filter, but in general, it's not a desirable look. And the problem is that this lens element is just so dang small, it becomes really difficult to completely clean it off. There's not much surface area to give it a good wipe down. So always keep a lens cloth on you because you're gonna be wiping it. You're gonna be wiping it a lot. Despite that little quirk, this lens is amazing, and I'm gonna be bringing it with me on so many more adventures in the future. This is the perfect lens for hikers, travelers, and anybody who just wants a super lightweight and inexpensive option for everyday photos. Right now, you can get it for $269, which is a great price, so hop on that train if it's still on sale. But if you're just getting into videography, I made a video all about the top 5 things that I would buy first if I was starting a YouTube channel. I think that'd be really helpful, maybe just a good watch for you, so you should check out that video right up over there if you're interested.